had to go back to the original email in February.
Okay, so we are live on YouTube, guys, just so you know right now. We are not going to start for another 9 minutes, but we are live right now. I'm going to put a link in the chat to everyone that's in the waiting room so they know to go onto YouTube. I'll come back on in about 8 minutes and circle up, but anyone on YouTube is listening right now.
I'm still not seeing the interpretation button, Christy.
I see it at the bottom. The live interpretation, Isela?
Yeah.
It's on mine.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, and something just popped up and said English and Spanish interpretation available, the globe.
So what I will do, even though we are live on YouTube, is I'll let everybody in from the waiting room. And if we don't hit our cap, then great, we're fine. This is still broadcasting live, so that's easy for us to post tomorrow. But if we do hit our cap, we'll also have the YouTube live link available for anyone who can't fit into the normal Zoom. And Isela, are you set on translation? Okay. So we do have about 5 minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and start letting everybody in just so we can clarify a couple housekeeping things.
Isela, are you there?
Oh, she's in the interpretation room. That's why we can't hear her, but she is there. Yes.
Okay, wait. I hear you. Christy, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, are we back in the English side? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stay here, Isela.
Perfect. Okay. Let's. All right, you guys want to go ahead and let everybody in the waiting room, and then I'll describe what we're going to do.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Good evening. We are also live on YouTube. We put that link in the chat. We wanted to be able to accommodate as many families and students as possible tonight. So you are welcome to access this presentation in a variety of ways. You can either join us here in the Zoom, or the same information will also be broadcast via our YouTube channel right now. We will ask that everybody stay muted, and if you have questions, whether you're accessing this presentation on YouTube or on Zoom, you are welcome to put questions in the chat. We have our counseling team here who will help moderate and make sure that all participants are muted. And again, we are broadcasting on YouTube as well. And this YouTube link will be emailed to all families and students and posted on our NPHS website tomorrow afternoon if you missed the presentation tonight. We will begin in just about 3 minutes. Once again, if you are just joining us, welcome. We are also broadcasting this presentation on our YouTube channel. You are able to access the presentation on our YouTube channel or via this direct Zoom link. The presentation will be available in Spanish via interpretation on your screen. We will start in 1 minute. Okay, it is 6 o'clock and we are going to begin. Good evening and thank you for joining us for our Future Panther, our freshman presentation. Once again, we are also broadcasting live on our YouTube channel. You are able to access the presentation via YouTube as well. Spanish interpretation is available on our screen. The presentation is recorded and will be sent out tomorrow and posted on our CVUSD Newbury Park High School website. My name is Christy Keener and I am one of the assistant principals at Newbury Park High School. I am going to introduce Rick Napora, who is one of our counselors at Newbury Park High School, who will guide us through the presentation for this evening. I will ask that you please remain muted. And if you have any questions, please put the questions in the chat and our counseling team will be responding to them. Again, this presentation is being recorded and will be sent out via our NPHS website, as well as communicated through your CVUSD middle schools tomorrow.
Ms. Keener, before we get started, I'd like to make the language access announcement in Spanish. That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Bienvenidos a todos, gracias por estar aquí. Esta presentación ofrece interpretación para todos ustedes. Si ocupan la presentación en español, solamente tienen que hacer clic en el icono de globo que va a estar al fondo de su pantalla, abajo de su pantalla es un icono de globo. Hagan clic donde dice interpretación y seleccionen su idioma, el español. Gracias a todos. We can pass it to Mr. Napora now.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the other members of the counseling team. As Ms. Keener mentioned, I'm Rick Napora, the counselor whose last names are S-A-N-D through Z, and we'll just go alphabetically, starting with Ms. Choi.
Good evening. I'm Tina Choi, in charge of last names A through DA.
I'm Tina Coleman. My letters are DE through I.
Hi, I'm Leslie Nedwick. I serve students with the last names J through MO.
Hi, everyone. I'm Edith Cortez, and I'm the counselor for students with last names MU through SAN and also for English learners.
Thanks, everyone. And you'll notice that, again, as Ms. Keener mentioned, this entire presentation, you won't have to take notes unless you really want to. It will be posted on the counseling website. I already have the PDF and the PowerPoint version posted as well. And you'll see from this slide, we have Ms. Sabori and Ms. Reyes, who both are in the counseling office with their numbers and extensions. Starting with your counselor and what does a counselor do? So basically, counselors can do academic planning and we can do course selection guidance, but we're also available for college and career planning and preparation and for social and emotional support or interventions if need be. And I put in parentheses after the school year begins, because if you need to contact us at the high school, we ask that you wait until after the school year begins because we're currently working with our entire student population. So we're going to try and answer any questions you may have this evening. And I know that's a tall order, but know that if you're currently a student within our district, we're going to be meeting with you individually. If you're a student from outside the district, we're going to be reaching out individually, your Alpha counselor contacting you to talk about loading your schedule and answering questions you may have. So when school begins, students can visit their counselor just on a walk-in basis. They can come in before school, after school, at lunch, at break. And if they have a quick concern, that's the best way to do it. And then if they need something that's going to take more time, then we'll ask them to make an appointment with the folks on the prior screen that I mentioned. And urgent matter, basically kids can drop in anytime, middle of class, even if need be. Additional contacts, this is more down the road, but we do have an athletics department. We also have an assistant principal who is in charge of attendance, another assistant principal who's in charge of activities. And we also have teacher emails and websites, which you can peruse right now if you would like by just going to the main website, clicking on the academic tab, and then you can see like real live teacher emails. And then contacting the counselor, again, the contacts I mentioned on the second slide prior. Graduation requirements. So this is going to be talked about many times throughout the years, but in a nutshell, when a student takes a class at the high school level for, let's say, a year, you get 10 credits. So let's say you're in English 9 and you successfully pass both semesters, you will get 10 credits. And you need 40 credits total, or 4 years of English. That's required. Also required will be world history, which begins in 10th grade, and then US history in 11th grade, and then gov/econ. That'll be as a senior. That's 30 credits total. Mathematics, kids need 30 credits total, of which Algebra 1 or Integrated 1 is one of those 30 credit requirements. And then on to science. Science has also begun in grade 9, 1 life, 1 physical for a total of 20 credits. Health is required of everyone, 5 credits total. PE, which can be either through physical education classes or through playing a sport for Newbury Park High School, 20 credits or 2 years. This is where there's a bit of confusion. students do not need a language to graduate. They need either a language or a visual performing art or a career technical education elective. So it could be one of those for a total of 10 credits. The rest will be 75 credits of electives. And before parents and students panic, like, oh my gosh, where am I going to get 75 credits from? Anything that students take that's above and beyond the minimum requirement then becomes an elective credit. So that's a grand total of 230 credits. Those of you who are super math will notice if a kid takes 6 classes a year, that's 60 times 4 is 240. So there's 10 credits built in case something unforeseen may happen. And again, students have to pass the Algebra 1. And then in Q, once kids are in high school and they start earning credits, they'll be able to click on Q anytime and review their graduation status. College is a little different story. Unlike simply graduating from high school, there's some additional things that are required to be eligible for most colleges in North America. 40 credits of English, that's the same thing. The social science, 30 credits, same thing. Mathematics is where it starts to begin to change. In addition to the Algebra 1, students also need geometry, and then they need Algebra 2 at least. And again, that's minimally recommended would be more math. The more math, the better. Science, they'll need lab sciences, at least the 1 life and 1 physical. So that's pretty much the same. Visual performing art now, it's not an either or, it's a and. You need a visual performing art of 10 credits, and you need world language, the same language of which middle school language can count, for a grand total of 20 credits, and 30 is recommended. And again, it has to be the same language. And electives, basically the colleges don't require a bunch of electives, but you're going to have to take those anyways to graduate. Most of the college-bound kids choose college prep electives. And then physical education is in red because most colleges don't require it. And then health, same thing. It's a district requirement, not necessarily a college requirement. If you ever hear the term A through G, that simply is a new letter designation for each subject that the UC and the Cal State use. For example, you can go to the UC website, which I'll talk about later if you want to get into that now, but it's something for down the road to keep in the back of your mind. The courses for college typically need to be completed with a C as in cat or higher. And obviously a B as in boy is better and A in an apple is the best, but kids can just work on doing what they can to the best of their ability. CSU UC courses for NPHS will be listed at the Doorways website. The schedule, you may have heard a lot of things about the schedule next year for Newbury Park changing. It is in fact changing to what's called a rotating block schedule or an alternating block schedule. And what that simply means is that the majority of kids will be taking 3 classes per day, each of which is approximately 100 minutes. And then the next day, they'll be taking 3 different classes, which will also be approximately 100 minutes. And that will continue throughout the year. So from the beginning of school in August until the end of school in June, the students will have a total of 6 classes, which are alternating daily. If a kid really loves school or is taking a class that is only offered a certain period, we also have what's called a 0 period, which again is completely optional. And that's 50 to 55 minutes. And rather than alternating, like I just mentioned, that meets every single day of the year. And then there's also an optional period 7, again, for students who are like, yes, school. And that will also be 50 to 55 minutes every single day of the year. The typical school day, you know, Johnny comes to school, takes period 1, has a break, and then has the next period, and then has lunch, and then has the last, period of the day. Most 9th graders, or all 9th graders rather, are required to take 6 classes, and the typical freshman lineup would look like everyone's going to be enrolled in an English class, everyone's going to be enrolled in a math, everyone's going to be in a science, everyone's going to be in health or / careers and geography. Those are married. So health essentially will be half the school year, and then careers and geography will be the other half of the school year. And then the reason I said most kids in terms of taking 6 classes, PE is a requirement, but some kids may play a sport, and those kids may choose to replace PE with an elective. So those kids would in fact have 7 classes if they choose to do that. And then an elective. And in most cases, a lot of the college-bound students in that elective spot will go ahead and choose a world language. The registration process, to try and demystify it, what it's going to be is your students are going to be given a course request form or a link to a form from which they will be able to download a PDF document. And then on that document, they will be reading a bunch of instructions, and then you will be looking at all the courses that are offered because it's a 3-page document. And then when they're all finished, they're going to sign it. You're going to sign it. We're going to make sure there's elective alternates. And then what's going to happen is they're going to hang on to that form, and then they're going to meet with their counselor. And so there's going to be dates that are already posted on the counseling website that coincide with the days that we'll be going off to our feeder middle schools. And then we'll be, again, meeting with your students. So it's highly encouraged for the students to make sure they've seen this presentation and another presentation, which I will mention later, and then that they filled out those courses as best they can. They don't have to be perfect. That's why we're meeting with them. So any questions you might have, you can jot down that might be individual to your student. So if you're currently attending a CVUSD school and it's a feeder school, there's a hyperlink there with the dates. If you're an incoming student who is new to the district, what's going to happen is once you finish your form, you can email it back to your alpha counselor, and then that alpha counselor will reach out to you / your parents or guardians. And that's after you've enrolled in the district officially with our registrar and you exist in our student information system. The contract looks like this. It's 3 pages again, as I mentioned. The very first page is the actual where the magic happens. That's where you'll be providing demographic information like name, a phone and so forth. And then the second half of the page is all the courses themselves. The other page would be all the courses that are available to an incoming 9th grader. And then the third page breaks it down by 0 period and period 7 classes. So starting with the very easy stuff, student name, ID, home phone. We want the student's cell phone number, not the parent or guardian cell phone number. We already have the parent or guardian cell phone number. The reason we want your student's cell phone number is because if we ever have a question about a scheduling issue, generally, if we get a hold of the parent, they'll say, oh, you need to talk to my son or daughter. So, here's their cell phone. So to save us all that trouble, let's have their cell phone. And then student email address, one that they actually check, and then parent or guardian email address. We know we can get yours from Q, but if something has changed, we just want the most accurate information. The directions, super important. The most important thing you can do with your student is review the course descriptions, because a zillion times counselors are asked, what elective should I take? Or which English class do you think is better? And so having never taught your student, we don't have any idea. We can't imagine what your student would like as an elective, even if you tell us the things they love. So all the courses have descriptions that talk about how much homework is involved, what happens in the class in terms of content, if it's difficult or if it's considered, easier, super important stuff. And then again, after you review the courses and you've completed the contract, you don't have to, you can skip number 3 because you do not have to load the courses in Q. That was meant for the upperclassmen. And you don't have to email the completed form to the counselor unless you're from out of district. And on to the course selection guidelines, super important. We cannot make schedule changes because a student wants a different teacher or because they want a different period or they're an athlete and they want a quote unquote easy class at the end of the day. Those are all schedule changes that can't be done. The scheduler puts students in places that there's room available, and about half of our school plays a sport. So, the athletes are very well regarded in terms of being able to let their teachers know ahead of time that they have a game coming up, and they'll be able to make up that work, whether it's an elective or it's a core solid class. And you can support us as parents by, if your student has an issue with a teacher, instead of telling the counselor the teacher doesn't fit their learning style, it's much better to find out and have a conversation with that teacher and find out how to make things work in that class, which will teach them a life skill for later on. Required schedule changes are things that we will do for any student who failed a course or who took something in summer, and then we have to make an adjustment because they've met a prerequisite, for example. And then a requested schedule change would be something if a student comes to us and says, I want to improve the integrity of my schedule, like take a harder math class or another science class. Those are things we can do if there's space available. And the kids that will want to do those things will be able to come and talk to us on the freshman orientation days. Athletics. If you play a team sport, that's for Newbury Park High School, you will earn 5 credits per season. So yes, if you play 2 sports, you'll get 10 credits. And if you play 3, you'll get 15. It's 5 credits per sport per season. And that all counts toward your 20 credits of PE. And if you do play a sport for Newbury Park High School as a freshman, that means you don't have to take PE. The sport gets added by the coach, not by the student. We have a lot of kids that tell us, I'm going to play football or I'm going to be a lacrosse star, but we never know if that's the case until the coach reaches out to the counseling office and then adds that sport to the schedule. So what we tell kids to do with their schedules, go ahead and put some kind of other thing like PE or some kind of an elective on the schedule in case the athletic thing doesn't happen. And any questions about when sports are or which season or who's the contact, there's a live link on the reg form directly to athletics. And if a student wants to play a sport in college, it's a good idea now for them to familiarize themselves with the acronym NCAA and NAIA, because those entities have their own requirements for what it takes for a student to play a sport in college. Prereqs and honors, super important. We will have listed next to the course what is required in order to take that next course. And so make sure that you've met that prerequisite before you actually select the course. And so again, we have flow charts that are hyperlinked where you can look at like what math comes before the other math and what science before the other science. And then honors placement, super important. If a student's currently taking an honors course and they're earning a B as in boy or higher, that means they could take another honors course, and that's all they have to do is put it on the reg form and we'll put them in. If a student is not taking an honors course and wants to take the honors course, hopefully for all the right reasons, then that student needs to earn an A as an apple in all the marking periods for that course. And if they don't earn an A, we still are very open access. We would let them take the higher course if they wanted to, but we would need you as a parent and a guardian and a student to read the academic waiver form, which is linked to on the reg form. And then it would ask you to say, hey, I know I didn't meet the prerequisite. I still want to take this course, even though I read the course description and I realize it's going to be a monumental leap, and I still want to take it. Know that by doing so, that there is the risk of school starting a couple weeks into it, it might be too hard. And if the student comes to us and says, oh my gosh, it's too hard, we might not be able to get that student into a lower level unless there's space available. So that's why this process is so crucial. We want you to read everything and be well-informed consumers prior to choosing your courses. This is the actual course selection form that the kids are going to be bringing back to us. You will see there's lots of sections. So everyone's going to pick the English, the math, the science, the health, the PE, the elective. So English, incoming ninth graders will take one of these options. 9.1 means a student has an individualized educational plan, and the case manager will tell us that's the course the student's going to take. English 9 CP is college prep. That's what the majority of kids will be taking. 9 honors, that's the one that kids that really want to challenge and really love English will be taking and that are really cognitively prepared for it. And then there's the prerequisite on the right I was talking about, B as in boy in English 8 honors, or A as in apple in all terms or semesters of English 8 CP. Then essential English also, that's designed for students who have an IEP as well. Then for math, instead of asking your high school counselor what math you should take, we recommend that you speak with your current math teacher, who I will guarantee will be able to help you out on which math would be appropriate for you. And it could be anything on this list. We have some kids who are already in geometry honors. We have some kids who are struggling with math. These are the courses that are available. The things that are in the middle and to the right side of this page are what's called flow charts that will give you a kind of a roadmap of all the math courses and all the scenarios that could potentially happen. So we recommend that you review the course descriptions. Kids, we want you to talk to your current math teachers. And there is a direct hyperlink to the flow charts and to the math class descriptions in this actual PowerPoint, which is again going to be online. Science, kind of similar, but all kids are either going to take Earth Science CP, which is college prep and will count for UCCSU, or biology honors. And there's that prerequisite again, B as in boy or higher, and super science 8. And then Earth Science 0.1, again, for a student that has an IEP, and that'll come from the direction of the case manager. And there is a flow chart. So for those of you who want to know what happens based on either scenario for science, it's right there. And it tells you again, what happens after science, what comes next. And there's again, a link to the flow chart in the presentation and a link to all the science class descriptions. Health and careers. Everyone's going to take health. and geography and careers is something that is actually kind of married to health. So this is the question we get the most from incoming students. Can I take health in summer school? The short answer is sure. You could take pretty much anything you want in summer school, but it's going to be up to you as the parent to actually determine if in fact where it is you're choosing to take whatever it is you're choosing to take, if it's accredited, and if it issues an official transcript with a grade, a letter grade, and numerical credits. So sure, you could take health in summer. And if you wanted to, the biggest reason most kids tell us is because number one, they think they have to. They hear from a neighbor or a friend, you know, Susie took health in summer school, so I should. That's not true. There's plenty of room for you to take health in high school. And we even offer a health that's 7th period as a hybrid. So again, you shouldn't have to spend any money in summer school. You can just enjoy it at Newbury Park with our fantastic instruction. And that's an option. But if you do in fact choose to take health in summer school, again, up to you to find the school, up to you to give us that final transcript, or else it won't post on the Newbury Park transcript. And if you're just taking health because you want to open up a space for like an elective, like foods, for example, that's not the best idea, because things like foods or the really popular electives are limited in scope because we have like a teacher and we have literally hundreds of kids who want the class. And so if you take health just to open up a spot, you may end up with an elective that's not your favorite. So why not just take health at Newbury Park High School? Summer school options, there's a direct link on here that takes you to an explanation of what acceleration versus remediation is. And it gives you the board policy of what you can take off campus and what you can apply to your Newbury Park High transcript. And the answer is 40 credits. PE, you will take a PE class. We have adaptive PE for students who might have some limits in their abilities, and then that's per IEP. We have beginning dance, which counts as PE if you love dancing. We have a fantastic dance program. We have a dance team if you're like super dance, but that would require an audition. And we do have contacts, which I'll show you in a minute, of how to reach out to that teacher and say, I'm a super dancer. And then we have PE 9, which is garden variety. That's what most kids will take. And then we also have weight training. And again, the link on this presentation takes you to descriptions of all those courses. And then electives and alternates. Yes, there's some red on here, and I'll tell you why in a second. So let's say you got your English and your math and your science and your health. Let's say you're taking health in summer. Then if you are taking health in summer, we need you to put a course underneath where health would have gone. And then for that course and any course that's an elective, we need 2 alternates, because what the computer will do is it'll try and put you in your first choice elective. And if it's full, it'll then go to your alternate 1 and then your alternate 2. So kids, don't put foods in all 3 spots. That's a trick that won't work, because the computer will be like foods full, foods full, foods full. So we'd much rather have you say foods and then maybe broadcasting and then maybe theater. And then you've got a great shot of getting one of the 3. So that's why for every single course that's an elective, you need to put 2 different alternates, right? So, and again, some kids try and use the same alternates for 3 different electives. That won't work either. The key term is different and every. Then PE, if you're going to take any of the PE courses I described on the prior slide, then just simply write it under where it says PE course. Again, it could be dance, it could be weight training, it could be PE 9. If you're going to play a sport, then instead of that PE course, what are you going to put? You're going to put an elective where it says course, which is right here. And then again, if you put a course that's an elective, you're going to put 2 different alternates. And then on down to the 6th thing, if you're a college-bound student, then this is probably where you're going to put your world language. An important key thing for parents to remember, we offer several languages. For 9th graders, it's Spanish, it's French, and it's Chinese, rather than the traditional thought of, oh, we'll take Spanish because that would be so helpful and beneficial. That's absolutely true, but the language should be chosen that the student is most interested in. It doesn't, it's great that if a parent might even speak the language or they took it in high school, but remember, it's your student who's going to be taking that language for upwards of 36 weeks 1 year and then 36 weeks the next year. And so it should be a language the student genuinely enjoys. And so the likelihood of becoming fully bilingual with high school language is pretty slim to begin with. So students might as well enjoy themselves while they're meeting college requirements. So again, you'll put the course you want. Let's say you put French, and let's say an alternate, then I'm assuming would be Spanish or Chinese. And 7th period, again, optional. if you're not taking a 7th period, you don't have to take one. If you're going to take a 7th period, you'll put your first choice and you'll only need one alternate because there's less classes during that 7th period. Summer school, again, this is not a requirement. This is if you are taking summer school, what we ask is that you put the course that you're planning to take here, and we ask you to put where it is you're going to take it, because that's important. And then if you complete that course, we want to know what you're going to take instead. And then again, alternate choices. So for example, if Susie's going to take health, she'll put health here. She'll say it's going to be at Vista Real or Method or wherever. And then she's going to put theater here, let's say. And then maybe art media is the alternate number 1. And then foods is alternate number 2. That's how that would look. Signatures. This doesn't require a wet signature. I went ahead and made it in PDF so student can type it in and it comes out in cursive. And then parent/guardian will put it here and again, comes out in cursive. When the student hands that to us at the feeder school, we're going to consider that as your wet signature. So make sure that you've actually discussed it with your students so you're not shocked when the actual schedule posts right before school begins. Again, it does mention here it can be typed in the document, and that is giving us your consent. And if you're from outside the district, again, you will email the saved PDF with all your choices in it to the Alpha counselor. And again, once Harriet, our registrar, puts you in the system, we will reach out to you for the next steps. Future freshmen, this is when, if you are a current student who is attending our feeder schools, these are the dates we're going to be visiting the schools. So Sequoia, 6th and 7th, Sycamore, etc. And again, if you're from outside the district, we'll be reaching out to you. Honors and AP, this is important. So if you want to challenge yourself, the key term being challenge, you should never take an honors or AP class or IB class because it looks good to colleges or because your friend said, they're taking it. It should be because you, number 1, have the initiative and drive. And number 2, you have the inherent ability. And number 3, you have the time to commit to that course. If you just simply load yourself up with super hard courses, you're not going to have any time to sleep or eat unless you're like genius, in which case, go for it. Again, if you're enrolled in the honors course, you need the B or higher. If you're in the CP course, the A's are needed. There's the academic waiver I mentioned before. And again, if you have to level down, that's only possible if there's space available. D and F grades. So middle school, I know that there's a little more leeway if a student fails a course. In high school, if you fail anything, especially if it's required for graduation, like English, the course has to be repeated. So, and again, if you plan to go right to a four-year college, then any D grade, D as in dog, has to be at least a C as in cat or higher. And that's just, again, to be minimally eligible, not necessarily like you're going to get in. So the key term is like being responsible with your grades and doing whatever you need to do, like tutoring or staying and talking to your teacher, whatever it takes to improve the grade, if that becomes the case. Remediating. Summer school is one option where you can remediate. Our district offers free remediation. Again, you can choose any school you want up to 40 credits that's accredited, or you can even choose community college. The cool part is in grades K through 12, community college tuition in California is free, and students can take courses if they meet the prerequisites. If a parent, again, I've said this several times, if you're going to take a course off campus, again, it's up to you to make sure that it ticks all the boxes, including accreditation, mailing the transcript, meeting NC2A, et cetera. International Baccalaureate, I'll talk very little about this because it doesn't begin until grade 11. But for those of you that are on that kind of fast track, I want to take honors, AP, everything. Basically, we're the only school in the district that offers an International Baccalaureate program. It's for highly motivated juniors and seniors. Kids can't join as a full IB diploma candidate until their 11th and 12th grade year. They're essentially equivalent to university level work. We have all the disciplines. And then if you want to know more about IB in general, we have a full IB page with even a video from our IB coordinator. Students won't be able to apply for IB until further down the road. And at that point, our IB coordinator will speak with them to let them know specifically if they're on that path. And so generally speaking, the path towards IB is taking honors coursework as early as the 9th grade. Tips for students. You've probably heard this a million times before, but time management is huge. Showing a bunch of kids right there on their mobile devices, that's the number one bane of like high school right now, that kids spend so much time on social media that they don't have enough time to spend on time management. So we recommend that students work on that, identify things that work for them. It might even be having a TV on and a radio on, and some kids can work with that. Other kids might need complete quiet. We have academic resources galore. We have free tutoring after school. We always recommend our tutoring versus a parent spending upwards of thousands of dollars for a tutor who doesn't know necessarily how the student did in the last test or what's coming up on the next test. So we believe our tutoring works. Good grades, that'll help you get cheaper insurance when it comes time to drive. Overall, it opens up your options for post high school and keeps peace in the house. Monitoring the grades, parents, this is super important. I've talked to a lot of parents that are like, what's a Q? And that's like, several years in. So Q is the same thing that we're using at the middle school. You'll still have an account. You can check weekly if you need be, daily if you need be. We also use a platform called Canvas, which you'll be able to access and see your students' grades, attendance in real time. And we recommend not letting them be adults just yet. I have so many people from middle school say, we're going to give our kid a chance to show, what an adult they are. And then they just stop checking grades. And then they're all baffled when they're getting an F at 6 weeks in. So you can let them go a little bit, but you still want to have some control and check in. And healthy lifestyle, obvious, kids need sleep. Don't let them go to bed at 3 a.m. while they're watching TikTok. And then they're wondering why it's hard to pull them out of bed the next day. Good food, of course, homeschool, social lives. Staying informed, also important. We have the counseling website. We have the Newbury Park website. We have Mr. Lapierre, who pushes out like super cool s'mores that have pretty much everything for that week, like all in a central, conveniently located place. We have Naviance emails. You don't know about Naviance yet. We'll get into that, when school begins. Panther Tail. It's super important that kids get involved in something. And even though I've listed clubs and athletics, it could be outside of school. It could be church. It could be something where a student feels like waking up in the morning, they look forward to doing it. It could be skateboarding. It doesn't have to be traditional things that like, oh, you should join a club. It's like if the kid's already like a high level, professional mountain biker, then the club thing seems kind of like a moot point, right? Getting to know the teachers, super important. Counselor will eventually get to know you pretty well. Naviance, we'll talk about that later. Special interest areas. There's a lot of things you can do at Newbury Park High School that are extra and co-curricular. To play a sport, students need a 2.0. That's like non-negotiable. Like if you're participating in the CIF sport and your GPA is not 2.0, you can't compete. And if the school did compete, they'd risk forfeiting the game. So don't let your teammates down and make sure you're above that 2.0. We have a zillion clubs. And even if you think there's a club that you want to have that we don't have, you can even create a club if you find someone that'll be your advisor and you run it by our admin, and then poof, you could be running a club. Fantastic music program. We have honors, AP, and IB coursework. We have what's called DATA, which is the Digital Arts and Technology Academy. That's an added layer of support along with some specialized electives that are in the technology realm. And then we majors. Future Panther Night. That means if you're going to be a Future Panther, that you could actually come to the campus on Tuesday, April the 12th at 5:30 p.m. And then you can actually live the kind of Panther lifestyle for that evening. We're going to have live music performances, lots of information about club tables. We're going to have our dance team doing a demo. We're going to have counselors like live in one spot, like answering your questions. And then athletics will be there representing. The student store will be open. And then at that point, you'll be able to sign up for things like clubs and sports. And we say much more because there is a lot more. And freshman orientation, super important. During the week of August 15th, what will happen is you as parents will drop your kids off at the curb and say, see you later. And then your kids will actually walk into the building and they'll get a tour and they'll see where all their classrooms are going to be, for example, because they'll have picked up their schedule that will have the location of where things will be. And then mandatory ID pictures. So kids, if you're watching, you want to make sure your hair is like just the way you want that day. Otherwise, it'll be forever immortalized on your ID picture. And you'll think, what was I thinking? You'll be also picking up pre-purchased PE clothes if, in fact, you bought some prior to that. There'll be what's called an activity card. I don't know why it says cards. That was my mistake. Sorry. And then textbooks. You'll be taking your schedule to the library and showing the library, and they'll say, here's your textbooks. And then spirit packs if purchased ahead of time. Resources. So we have what's called the College and Career Center, where we have two fine individuals that will be in there answering questions related to college and career. We have the tutoring centers, which kids will be able to access from their Canvas accounts and then go there in person. We have a wellness center that's fantastic. That's a picture of it on the lower left, where students who are having a bad day or students who are struggling with something social, emotionally are able to go in to the wellness center. And we have wellness staff, therapists that are super willing to introduce themselves and do whatever's necessary to try and make your students have a better day. And then the counseling office, of course. We have the counseling website, which I will show you after this, and then a calendar, which we try to post all the important things on. As I mentioned before, Mr. Lapierre sends out those some more newsletters, and then again, the main website. So I'm going to now jump over onto the website and just show you where these things actually live. So bear with me for 1 second. This is the main website for Newbury Park High School. You will see lots of different tabs. So as we mentioned, academics, here's the departments, and that's where you'll find where the teachers are, or you'll find activities. Like here's the club list. There's a jillion of them. We even have things for like the band, the dance team, Panther TV. I would highly recommend that you drive around the site. There's the calendar we were talking about with the bell schedule and the NP calendar and the district calendar and testing, administration, etc. So now we'll jump onto the counseling. So everything that I've spoken of this evening will be here in the presentation archive, is where you will find a link to this video. And then when you're talking about registration, this is the link you can click. And on that link, you will click incoming freshmen, parents, and guardians. And then you will see the dates, which is actually the flyer that I already showed you. The incoming freshman video, you're watching it right now. The freshman course selection video, this is a 14-minute video that we demand that all the incoming students watch. And it walks them through all the mechanical parts of filling out that course selection contract. So it's kind of what I just covered really fast, but breaking it down into like step-by-step, here's what you need to do. And then this is the freshman course contract right here. It's live. You can click on it and then fill it out and download it. Make sure you save it. And then there's instructions about how to do all the things I just mentioned. And so super important, again, here's the course profiles. When you click on the course profiles, you will see all our courses listed. So now let's say you're an incoming freshman. You're like, what's the difference between English 9 and 9 honors? You'll click English 9 CP and voila, you'll know that it's moderate level of difficulty, 30 to 60 minutes of homework. Here's the course description, yay, right? And then there's an example, there's the syllabus. So it's kind of like, here's what you're doing. Now, if the kid's saying, well, what's 9 honors then? Oh, it jumped up to rigorous. Here's the homework. Here's the course description. And then there's even like the points and syllabus and so forth. And that's where you can click on teacher websites and you can actually see their syllabus live. Same thing for electives. So we know a student didn't pay attention to this entire presentation if they come into us and say, what's art media? Because they could have simply gone to visual and performing arts and they could have clicked on art media and then they would know what art media is. So make sure that your students review the courses, hugely important and a big favor for us. And then if a student is taking something that requires like an audition or an application or teacher permission, they would click here. And then it would take you to all of the ways that you need to do something in order to be accepted for a course. So for example, if you want to play an orchestra and you're super awesome, you would email Miss Wong and say, I'm super awesome. And then she would say, let me hear you play. And then she would email us and say, oh my gosh, this is the best player ever. And then we'd put you in whatever she tells you to. Same thing with like vocal ensemble, like I'm an awesome singer. You would email Mr. Sargent. Panther Prowler and yearbook, that would be like, here's yearbook, for example, and then here's the application when you click on it, and here's a video of why it's so cool and you should do it, and then same thing for Prowler. So everything audition is there. You will put some other kind of elective until you're accepted via audition or application, same as like PE and playing a sport. So that's in a nutshell where everything lives on the counseling website. If you're from outside the district, there's an actual link to the registrar's email. And you first have to be released from your district and then accepted to our district. And then once all that happens, the registrar will put you into the student information system. And then we will be able to like put in your coursework. But until then, you don't exist in the system. And so make sure that you've done all the other things on here, and then we can help you. And so with that, that was my super high speed like presentation about counseling and where the resources are and so forth. And if parents are super excited to find out about what happens and I want to get into Stanford, you can click on the index of links. It's all alphabetical, everything from, hey, my student wants to be a professional welder, which would be under career resources, or what's it take to get into XYZ college? That would be under college resources. And so I'm pretty confident that you would find the answers to most things here. But with that in mind, we're now going to open up the floor to whatever questions you might have. If you don't have any questions whatsoever, then I thank you for your time that you spent with us this evening, and then we'll see you around. But for everybody else that has a question, floor is open.
So first of all, Rick, thank you. Can you go ahead and just clarify, looking at the screen that you had on before for registration where it had all the links, can you clarify that the link that is not clickable right now?
This one will be clickable as soon as this video is finished, and it'll be live tomorrow.
Perfect. And then before the counselors jump in with some other questions, can we revisit PE just in a nutshell and maybe clarify for the parents what the PE options are for next year? We saw that question many times.
Sure. So here's the contract, and let's pretend I'm you guys. And now I'm home tonight over the dinner table, and here's PE. So basically it describes if you're going to play a sport, then we would need to know what course you want here instead of PE. So let's say art media, right? If you are in fact going to take a PE class, you would scroll down here to the PE section, and you would choose from either dance or PE9 or weight training. If you're an awesome dancer, again, you would audition, and then maybe you'll make dance team, maybe you won't. If you have an adaptive PE need, that'll be by your case manager. But the overwhelming majority of kids will either do regular old PE9, or they may choose weight training, or they may choose dance. And if they're playing a sport, then they'll take some other kind of elective in lieu of PE.
Okay, we could start reading questions. Does that sound okay, Mr. Napora?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And as we're going through questions, again, if you have gotten everything that you need, you are welcome to continue on with your evening. Thank you so much for joining. We will post this presentation again on our school website, like Rick had identified, so that will be live for you. Again, we are also live on YouTube, so you may be joining us via that link as well. We will post the video tomorrow morning, so anyone who's not able to attend tonight will be able to access the presentation. For those who are outside of the district, do not worry. Once your application process and your enrollment process is completed with our registrar, she will be scheduling your meetings with the counselors. There is no time pressure. There is no rush to get a seat ASAP. Don't worry, it's okay. The counselors will meet with you. You will get your classes put down on your request form. Those of you who are in our district, the counselors will be going to those middle school sites. Again, you can see the schedule on the NPHS counseling website. You can also ask your middle school counselor for the date that the NP staff will be at your middle school's campus or be available to meet with those students. So if you're good to go, everyone have a wonderful evening. If not, we're going to start reading through some questions that others have asked.
Okay, the first question is, if I plan to play soccer in 9th grade because it's a winter sport, and if I don't put down PE but don't make the team, what happens basically?
So that's a fantastic question. My recommendation is this: I would be reaching out to the soccer department now, via athletics, and then I would say, here's me. And then if you have a reasonable expectation after talking to the coach in terms of what level of players generally make the team, and you're pretty sure you're going to make it, I would still put another elective on there. And then worst case scenario, if you take that elective and you don't take PE, then what you could do is jump into PE the next year. Or we also have what's called an online PE option, as you'll see here on 7th period. So the online PE is the same as PE 9, but it's completely online. So kids can take 6 classes during the day and take online PE, and then they would simply be logging in their physical activity hours. So a lot of kids who play soccer are also doing off-season training or mountain biking or walking the dog or jogging or whatever. And those are all physical activities that you could put into the actual spreadsheet or whatever it is the teacher requires, and you could be getting PE credit that way. So the short story is, even if you missed the PE opportunity in grade 9 because you thought you were going to play a sport, or if you're playing a sport and you get injured, you could always jump into PE in grade 10. You just need 20 credits of PE prior to graduation.
Rebecca, no, there will not be any marching band next year. It's going to be embedded in the 6th period band class. Next question, is beginner band for complete beginners who just started their instrument? Do any of the bands need an audition to get in? If so, when and how will I be able to take the audition?
Okay, so here's the thing. So if it doesn't have a prereq in the right-hand column, then no audition, nothing. You could just be like, I want to be in band. If you feel as though you have like the chops to be like at a higher level band, then what you would do is you would go to this section where it says audition required. And then you would email, so for example, here's concert orchestra, here's orchestra springs, here's vocal ensemble, and here's super band. So Dennis Crystal is the actual contact for anything band related. So what I'd recommend is you reach out to him now and say, here's what I play based on what I want to do in high school with my instrument. What do you think I should do? And he will be able to tell you very quickly what he recommends.
And just to clarify, the band program with Mr. Crystal, they're still going to do events at the football games. There will still be the spirit band that is traditional to our school, and that program is still intact. They are simply not competing this year due to changes related to COVID. But the band program will still be, the pep band is still alive and well and will be there in full force for the all the spirit events with football and related activities. Mr. Crystal is very excited about that.
Here's a question. Why isn't there a regular bio class?
Do you want to answer that, Coleman?
Yes. For, if you back on the registration form and the classes on the back, the choices are honors bio for the 9th grade or earth science. If the student takes earth science in 9th grade, then in 10th grade, they have bio CP.
Is the concert orchestra during regular class day or 07th period?
Excellent question. Anything that's on this page, page 2, means it lives in periods, 1 through 6. The only classes that are outside the school day will be on page 3. And then they're listed either as a 0, which is before the school day, or a 7, which is after the school day.
Can you do a sport and weight training?
Sure, because weight training would simply count as one of your 6 classes. So up here on this form, you would put weight training. And then once you make it to whatever sport it is, we'll simply add that to your schedule. So that won't even have to live here on your, none of the sports will actually go on the course selection.
There's some more PE questions, but I think you went over them. When the counselors go to the middle schools, are they meeting with the students one-on-one or with a whole group?
So we will be sitting at like a table and everyone will be appropriate distance apart. And then what will happen is the student will come up one by one and sit across from us in a chair, and we'll answer whatever questions the student has. And then we will see the next student thereafter.
When and where do we turn in the form with what classes we want to attend?
So if you're a current student in our district from our quote unquote feeder school, you will hold on to this form and not let it out of your sight, and you will bring it to us on the day that your actual class is meeting. If you are a student from outside of the district, then you will just finish this, save it, open it to make sure it's saved, and then email it to your alpha counselor. And then we'll reach out to you individually because we won't have the opportunity to go to the feeder school wherever it is you're attending.
Where do you apply for health in summer school?
So that is up to you because we don't offer health as an acceleration course. We only offer courses for remediation. And so for those of you that have any questions about that, what you'll do is you'll go to counseling website and then you'll click on links. So remember, everything alphabetical lives under links. And then what you're talking about is what's called acceleration. So when you click on the third link that says acceleration, it explains what it is, what happens if you need to repeat, what happens if you want to accelerate. And then there's a list here of schools that are not affiliated with CVUSD that were, this was a flyer that was out from the district. And then there's examples of programs here like Ivy Tech and Method. And so it's completely up to you to find the program that you feel suits your needs. And then when you're done with whatever it was you took at that place, you need to have an official transcript sent here to Miss Osinski. So in short, I would bookmark this page and study it, and then that should answer any questions about any course taken off campus.
Okay, we have about 10 more minutes with about 45 questions left.
All right, let's go.
Okay, can we meet with a counselor if my child has an IEP?
What's going to happen with any IEP is there's going to be a case manager reaching out in case there needs to be a transitional IEP meeting, et cetera, et cetera. And so if there is any counselor input required, then the case manager will reach out to us and clarify anything that happens. But due to the sheer number of students that we have currently we're working with, we won't be able to meet individually with incoming parents. And that's why we highly recommend you work with your current counselor. And then sometimes we'll get emails from the current counselor that are asking a question that we can answer, hopefully.
So we put PE or weights on the first line for PE, the sport they want on the second line, the third and fourth line are for what then?
Oh, so let's go back to the contract. So remember, if it's a sport, you don't put it on there because we don't know if you're going to actually get accepted to the sport. So what you'll put here is if you're going to take a PE course at Newbury Park High School, you'll put the course here. Let's say it's dance. So if you're going to take dance, then you don't need an alternate unless, you're going to, well, I guess you could put an alternate for dance like PE, or the other alternate could be weight training, which you could put down here like so. So basically then the computer will try and put you in dance for your PE. If that doesn't work, it'll try and put you in regular old PE. And if that doesn't work, it'll put you in weight training. So sports, again, don't put a sport on the form because we have no idea knowing if you're going to make it to that sport.
Okay, can you explain more about online PE?
Sure. Online PE is what'll happen is the teacher has an entire course that lives in Canvas, which is the learning platform. And then the student will say, I want online PE. And then from day one, they'll go on their Canvas account and the assignments will be listed. And the student will be expected to complete those assignments and submit them for all the written things like body mass index or the PE topics that are typically covered in the PE class. Then the physical component will be the student is engaging in some kind of regular physical activity outside the school day. And then the parent will be asked to kind of verify that the student in fact did whatever hours of PE the student said he or she did. So some kids skateboard, some kids mountain bike, some kids jog. So it's acceptable if students are in regular physical activity and if they meet the minimum amount of hours required, that'll check off that part of the class. And then the written work will be the other part of the class. And then at the end of the class, the grade will be issued.
When do we get our schedules?
So what'll happen is that we'll meet with you, we'll load the system, and then the scheduler will be run probably either like Miss Keener could probably answer as to when the schedule will be run, but all students will get their schedule on that day when they come to the school for the tour. So on the day when everyone comes in to get their ID card and everything else, the schedules will be there.
So there's a difference. So just a reminder, students will get their course selections during orientation. That's not their schedule. Typically the day before school starts, at the beginning of the year, students get their final schedule, but during orientation, they'll get their course list of classes that they're scheduled to take.
Okay. How many of the 3 AP classes can my child take if he took health in the summer and had one free period and used the period 7 slot?
So think about like a math equation. So there is no AP English. So if what you're talking about is honors English, any kid can take honors English or regular English 9, right? Math, same thing. It's not about AP or IB. It's about whichever the next math level it is. science, your only choice is either earth science or bio honors. There is no AP science in grade 9. And then health, if health is knocked off, then you could take any course on that course selection form for which you meet the prerequisites. So if we scroll down and look, and if there is an AP course like AP Human Geography, you could take that, right? So there's very few AP courses offered at the 9th grade level. So if you take something in summer, it just simply means that you have one more slot during the 6th during the day to take a different class. And you could also take a 0 and or 7th if you meet the criteria for those courses.
Can we email the teacher now for audition and orchestra, even if we are still waiting for the registrar to process our enrollment in the system?
You could, the only downside to that is if you get super excited and she says, yeah, you can be in the highest level orchestra, and then for whatever reason, your district doesn't release you. But I would see no harm, because our teachers are always welcoming with open arms talent from, inside, outside the district. And so Ms. Keener, you could probably answer that question. If the student's not currently registered in Q, are our teachers able to respond?
No. If they have a question regarding a specific program, like they want to reach out to the orchestra program, they can reach that teacher via the link that was on the counseling website. But nothing specific for academics per se.
Is there a non-honors biology class?
There is in 10th grade.
I have a cross-country question. Do we get in touch with the department or coach?
So you would click here on athletics, and then you would go to cross country is a fall sport. So you click, let's see here, fall, and then here's cross country. And then when you click one of these levels, you will see it should take you to another magic portal. And then there's the coach's email address. So questions about cross country should go directly to the coach.
Also, folks, just a reminder, coaches cannot respond to you until after May 1st. So we would encourage everybody to come to our future Panther Night, which is April 12th, and they'll have a table that you can talk to the coach then, but you can email the coach, but they cannot respond back to you until after May 1st.
What does it take?
Just by way of kind of bringing us all back, Rick, if you can go back to the, oh, you're right there already. Perfect. We know this is a lot of information. It's certainly a lot to process, whether this is your first, second, third, fourth, fifth incoming freshman for high school. Please just take a deep breath. Don't worry too much about it. We are here to help you. The counselors will be meeting with the students. Those are only meetings with the students, not with the parents, for the registration to go over the course list. Don't worry, again, if you feel like your student still has questions after the one-on-one meeting with the counselors. Future Freshman Night is coming up in April, like Mr. Lapierre said. That's a wonderful opportunity, not only to get a chance to see athletics and clubs on campus, but again, Mr. Napora said the counselors will be there live in person. So if you have any additional questions for them after giving everything a chance to process and digest over the course of the next month, that's a great opportunity to come meet the counselors live in their natural habitat and ask those questions that you might still have regarding academics. Also, the video that Rick had posted online that's on the screen right there where it says number 2, that's a wonderful video that'll really help go through everything step by step for you. Watch it 1, 2, 3 times. We know this can be a lot. We're here to help you guys. Don't stress too much about it. You will get through it. We will be here to help you get through it one step at a time. Okay, let's maybe take one final question, Leslie, if there's something that's new that we haven't yet seen. And then Rick, while she's doing that, if you want to put the dates flyer back up on the screen so everyone can see where we go for next steps. Perfect. Oh, let's actually take that one right there. When is the final registration form due? That's a perfect ending question, Lillian Stewart. Thank you. Go ahead, Rick.
So the final registration for us will be what, April 12th, right, from Sycamore. But then for students from whom are coming out of the district, that could be all the way until school starts next year, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, so again, for our And note that there's no disadvantage. Like a lot of parents will say, well, I got to get in as fast as I can because if some kids are being seen the 6th, they'll get all the seats. But the scheduler doesn't work that way. What'll happen is once the smoke clears and we've got everything processed, then Ms. Keener will run the scheduler. So your students aren't disadvantaged if you don't like trip over yourself to get into the district. So know that, as she mentioned, you could take a deep breath and then we'll put everything in the system. And then even if something has to change after the fact before school starts, there's still a long runway to do that because we know things can change like student grades or aspirations.
Okay. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining. Again, the counselors look forward to meeting the students coming up here in the next few weeks, and we hope to see everybody out on the quad in April. If you have any additional questions, we're more than happy to address them at the counseling table during future Panther Night. Thank you so much, guys, and welcome to Newbury Park High School. We're excited to see you guys all in August. Bye.
Bye, thank you. Are we still recording?
Kim.